I call this meeting of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Spending Oversight to order. I want to thank Senator Hassan for allowing this bipartisan hearing to occur. Welcome to each of our panelists. Thank you for joining us. The purpose of this hearing by the subcommittee on emerging threats and spending oversight is to discuss, as our name implies, the emerging threat posed by gain-of-function research. We will hear from a panel of 3 witnesses, all of whom are extraordinarily accomplished experts in the scientific community. We're grateful for their work, and we are grateful to each of you for taking the time to appear with us this afternoon. Gain-of-function research is a controversial scientific research method involving the manipulation of pathogens to give them a new aspect or ability, such as making viruses more transmissible or dangerous to humans. Despite all we have learned about the potential risks of this particular method of research, this is the first congressional hearing on this subject since the pandemic began. Today we will discuss what gain-of-function research entails, how gain-of-function research is defined, and whether the definition of gain-of-function research is applied consistently by the Department Health and Human Services P3CO Review Committee. This is a committee that was set up to study potential pandemic pathogens. We will discuss the responsibility for how we determine the risks and benefits. We'll also discuss how this committee operates, how this committee approves or denies projects from receiving federal funding based on whether the pathogen is considered to be a credible source of potential future human pandemic, and if the potential risks as compared to the potential benefits to society are justified. In other words, a project is not gain-of-function if the review committee is unsure if a recombinant virus will create a future pandemic. There's a question of whether or not there's a reasonable expectation that it might be, or whether or not it has been in the past, or what viruses should be and should not be experimented upon. This broad criteria gives one sole committee, which is comprised of an unknown group of bureaucrats. I believe the names are not released of who's on the committee, so there's not necessarily any oversight of the oversight. The power to spend millions of taxpayer dollars on a single preemptive guess with potentially devastating consequences. Today, we will also consider whether gain-of-function research was performed at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. First, no one, not myself or anyone I'm aware of, argues that a recombinant supervirus that has been published in scientific journals is COVID-19 or a close relative. If, and I underline if, COVID-19 leaked from the Wuhan lab, it would be a laboratory-created virus that the Wuhan scientists have not yet and are unlikely ever to reveal. I maintain that the techniques that the NIH funded in Wuhan to create enhanced pathogens may have or could have been used to create COVID-19. The American people deserve to know how this pandemic started and to know if the NIH funded research that may have caused this pandemic. Gain-of-function research has the potential to unleash a global pandemic that threatens the lives of millions, yet this is the first time the issue has been discussed in a congressional committee. I'm sure each member of this committee, as well as the full Senate, can agree that we need stronger government oversight of how our tax dollars are being used to finance experimenting with possibly fatal diseases. Again, I thank each of our distinguished witnesses and for being here today, and I thank Chairwoman Hassan for working with me to convene this meeting. Before we begin, I would like to note that I've invited senators who are not on the subcommittee to also attend today. Therefore, I ask unanimous consent to allow Senator Marshall and Senator Johnson to fully participate in the hearing, provided that any members of the subcommittee be given deference in the order of recognition. Without objection. Next, I'd like to remind witnesses that any written testimony they have, anything that they have submitted, will be included in the record, and to please keep your opening remarks to around 7 minutes. With that, I'm going to introduce the witnesses, and we'll